The transport shuttle descended through the atmospheric shield of Station Epsilon 7, and Corporal Yuna Han pressed her face against the viewport. The Galactic Combat Academy sprawled before her like a small city floating in space. Training facilities, simulation domes, and barracks modules connected by transparent walkways that offered breathtaking views of the stars beyond. Yuna couldn't quite believe she was here. 3 generations of her family had served in Earth's military, but she was the first to make it to this place. The Academy trained warriors from 40 different species, the best soldiers the galaxy had to offer. And somehow a simple infantry specialist from Sol had earned a spot among them. The shuttle docked and Yuna grabbed her gear bag. As she stepped into the main concourse, she stopped and stared. Aliens everywhere. A group of towering reptilian creatures with crystalline scales walked past, speaking in harmonic tones. Small, floating beings that looked like they were made of liquid metal drifted by overhead. A 4-armed warrior in heavy armor stood by a viewport, checking a plasma rifle that hummed with barely contained energy. "First time at the Academy?" a voice asked in Korean. Yuna turned to find another human, a young man about her age with an easy smile. "I'm Taemin Beck, infantry like you. I saw your name on the roster." "Yuna Han," she replied, shaking his hand. "And yes, first time." "This place is incredible," Taemin laughed. "Wait until you see the training facilities. They can simulate any environment in the known galaxy. Desert worlds, ice planets, toxic atmospheres, you name it. Last week they had us doing zero-gravity combat drills in an asteroid field. They walked together through the station, Taemin pointing out important locations, the armory, the medical bay, the mess hall that served food for 50 different biological types. Yuna tried to take it all in, but her attention kept drifting to the weapons she saw. Every alien carried something advanced. Plasma rifles, photon blades, magnetic accelerator pistols, technology that made Earth's best military gear look like toys. "Do you ever feel outmatched?" Yuna asked quietly. "I mean, look at their equipment. Look at them. Some of these species have been traveling the stars for thousands of years." Taemin shrugged. "Humans hold our own. We're adaptable. That counts for a lot out here." He paused at a door marked with alien script. "Here's our barracks. Get settled. Orientation is in 2 hours." Yuna's quarters were small but comfortable. She unpacked her gear, setting out her standard-issue equipment. An energy pistol, a combat knife, body armor with shield generators. Good equipment, but nothing special. Nothing that would give her an edge over warriors who had trained their entire lives for combat. On her personal tablet, she pulled up a file she had been reading during the journey. Historical military tactics. Ancient Earth warfare. It was a hobby of hers, studying how her ancestors had fought before plasma weapons and energy shields. There was something pure about it, simple, direct. The orientation took place in an enormous auditorium. Hundreds of cadets filled the seats representing dozens of species. Yuna sat with the other humans, a small group of 20 among the crowd. On the stage, several instructors stood in a line. Warriors from different worlds, each one a legend in their own right. One of them stepped forward. Yuna recognized the species immediately. A chitin warrior, insectoid and massive, standing over 2.5 meters tall, 6 limbs, 4 of which could function as either arms or legs, a carapace that could deflect most energy weapons. They were born warriors, and this one wore the marks of countless battles. "I am Instructor Veklar," the being announced, its voice carrying through the auditorium without amplification. "For the next 6 months you will learn from us. You will be broken down and rebuilt. Many of you will fail. Those who succeed will become the elite, worthy of defending your worlds and your species." The instructor's compound eyes swept across the cadets. "But first you will prove yourselves worthy of our time. In 2 weeks you will enter the final qualification exercise, 3 days in our most advanced combat simulator. You will face hostile environments, dangerous wildlife, and each other. Only those who excel will continue their training here." Murmurs filled the auditorium. 2 weeks to prepare for a test that could end their academy careers before they truly began. Veklar raised one clawed limb for silence. "The rules are simple: survive, adapt, overcome. You may use any equipment available in the academy armories. However, there is one restriction." The instructor paused. "The simulation environment has unique atmospheric properties. Standard projectile weapons are prohibited. The chemical reactions required for conventional firearms will not function properly. You may use energy weapons and melee combat tools only." More murmurs, but less concerned this time. Most species had moved beyond projectile weapons generations ago. Their energy weapons were far superior anyway. Prepare yourselves, Veklar continued. Study the simulation parameters. Train with your equipment. In 2 weeks, we will see which of you deserve to stand among the galaxy's warriors, and which of you should return to your homeworlds. After the orientation, Yuna walked slowly back to the barracks, her mind racing. No projectile weapons, energy weapons and melee only. She thought about the equipment she had seen, the advanced technology every other cadet carried. She thought about the restriction and what it really meant. A restriction against projectile weapons. Against guns, against magnetically accelerated rounds, against anything that used modern propulsion systems to fire ammunition. But what exactly qualified as a projectile weapon by their definition? Yuna stopped walking. An idea was forming, strange and possibly brilliant. She pulled out her tablet and began searching through the Academy's databases. Historical weapons archives, museum collections. Surely a facility this large, this comprehensive, would have records of ancient warfare from every member species. She found what she was looking for faster than expected. The Academy maintained an entire wing dedicated to military history, a museum showcasing weapons and tactics from across the galaxy's civilized history, and according to the database, it included examples from Earth's past. Hey, Yuna. Taman jogged up beside her. Some of us are going to the firing range to test out the energy weapons. Want to come? Yuna smiled, an expression that would have worried anyone who knew her well. Actually, I need to visit the museum, but I'll catch up with you later. Taman looked confused. The museum? We have a qualification test in 2 weeks and you want to look at old weapons? Exactly, Yuna said. She was already walking toward the transit station, her mind full of possibilities. I'll see you at dinner, Taman. As she rode the transit car toward the museum wing, Yuna thought about her grandfather's stories. He had been a soldier in the old style, before humanity joined the galactic community. He used to tell her that the best warriors weren't the ones with the best weapons. They were the ones who understood that any object could be a weapon in the right hands, used the right way. The galaxy's warriors had forgotten their primitive roots in their rush toward advanced technology. But humans remembered. Humans always remembered where they came from. And sometimes, Yuna thought, that made all the difference. The museum doors opened before her and she stepped inside with purpose. Somewhere in this vast collection of ancient warfare, there was a weapon that would prove a point. A weapon that would show these advanced species that humans didn't succeed because of their technology. They succeeded because they never stopped adapting, never stopped thinking, and never forgot the lessons written in blood across 10,000 years of human history. Junho's coalition moved through the jungle with confidence, their sensors sweeping for energy signatures. 15 cadets with advanced equipment against 6 humans with basic gear, and 1 antique crossbow. The math seemed simple, but Yuna wasn't playing by their mathematics. She had positioned her small group throughout the jungle in a loose perimeter, each person hidden and waiting. Taman crouched behind a fallen log, his plasma rifle powered down to avoid detection. Mira hung in a tree, nearly invisible among the leaves. The 3 other humans who had joined them, Yuk and 2 others named Dasam and Quan, waited at positions Yuna had carefully selected, and Yuna herself sat perfectly still in dense undergrowth, her crossbow loaded, watching Junho's force walk into her trap. The first bolt struck without warning. One of Junho's alien allies, a tall crystalline being, suddenly found his shield generator sparking and dying. Before anyone could react, a second bolt took out another cadet's weapon. Then a third struck the power pack of someone's armor. Junho's group spun in circles trying to locate the attacker. Their sensors showed nothing. No energy signature, no heat spike, no muzzle flash. Just equipment failing and cadets being systematically disarmed. Spread out, Junho shouted. Find her. She has to reload between shots. He was right about that. The crossbow's main weakness was reload time. But Yuna had accounted for this. She fired once, then melted back into the jungle while Junho's group focused on where she had been. By the time they reached that position, she was 50 meters away, reloaded and ready. Another bolt. Another disabled weapon. Another confused cadet wondering where the attack came from. This is impossible, one of Junho's allies said. How can we fight what we can't see? Yuna smiled from her hiding spot. Her ancestors would have understood this perfectly. This was ambush warfare, guerrilla tactics, the kind of fighting that humans had perfected over millennia. The strong didn't always win. Often the smart, the patient, and the adaptable carried the day. Junho's group began to panic. They fired energy weapons at shadows, at movements that weren't there, draining their power cells. They broke formation, each cadet trying to find cover while simultaneously hunting an invisible enemy. That was when Taman attacked. His plasma rifle, powered on at the last second, caught 2 cadets by surprise. Mira dropped from her tree onto a third, tagging him out in close combat. Hyuk, Daesom, and Kwan launched their own strikes from different angles. Junho's advantage of numbers evaporated. His coalition hadn't been prepared for coordinated ambush tactics. They had expected a direct firefight where their superior equipment would win. Instead, they faced an enemy that fought like ancient Earth warriors, strike from concealment, create chaos, disappear before counterattack. Within 10 minutes, Junho's force was reduced to 5 cadets. The others had been eliminated or had their equipment so badly damaged they withdrew. Honyo himself stood in a small clearing, his plasma rifle sweeping back and forth, searching desperately for targets. "Han," he shouted. "Face me directly. Stop hiding like a coward." Yuna considered his challenge. Part of her wanted to show him exactly why his attitude was wrong. But another part, the part that remembered her grandfather's lessons, knew better. Pride was a luxury. Survival and victory were necessities. She fired one more bolt, striking Junho's rifle dead center. The weapon sparked and died. Before he could draw a sidearm, 3 of Yuna's team had him surrounded, their weapons trained on him. Elimination confirmed, the simulation's computer announced. Cadet Junho Kim eliminated. Junho stared at Yuna as she emerged from the jungle, her crossbow held ready. "You didn't fight fair." "No," Yuna agreed. "I fought smart. There's a difference. Fair fights are for sports and honor duels. Real combat is about winning while keeping your people alive. My ancestors understood that. Maybe yours did too once before your species forgot." She lowered her crossbow. "You're not a bad soldier, Junho, but you're predictable. You use the same tactics as everyone else because that's what you were taught. Humans survived before we had advanced technology by being unpredictable, by adapting, by using what we had in ways no one expected." Junho looked at his disabled weapon, then back at Yuna. For a moment, she thought he might argue. Then he nodded slowly. "I underestimated you. I won't make that mistake again." "Good," Yuna said. "Now get out of here before the simulation predators find you." As Junho's eliminated cadets left the simulation, Yuna's team regrouped. They had lost one member, Kwan, who had been caught by a lucky shot during the chaos. But they had eliminated a force more than twice their size without losing anyone else. "That was incredible," Daesom said. "I've never seen tactics like that." "My grandfather taught me," Yuna explained. "He studied ancient Earth warfare. He used to say that modern soldiers rely too much on technology. Take away their advanced gear and they don't know how to fight. But take away a human's technology, and we just reach back through history for older solutions." Taman checked his equipment. "My power cell is down to 30%. "Mira?" 20%, Mira replied. "The simulation's atmospheric density is draining energy weapons faster than expected. By tomorrow, most cadets are going to be running on reserves." Yuna looked at her crossbow. "While I can make new bolts from materials in the jungle, no power required, no recharge time, just wood and metal. That's your real advantage," Hyuk realized. "Not just that they can't detect you. It's that you can keep fighting long after their equipment fails." "Exactly. Sustainability. Another lesson from ancient warfare. The army that can maintain its equipment in the field has a massive advantage over one that relies on external supplies." As night fell on the 3rd day, only 30 cadets remained in the simulation. The instructors released the final challenge information. An extraction point would appear at dawn in a fortified position on a hilltop. The first team to secure it and hold it for 1 hour would win additional points. It was meant to be the finale, the big confrontation that would determine final rankings. Yuna studied the map on her recovered tactical display. The hilltop was exposed, easy to defend once secured, hard to assault. Whoever got there first would have an enormous advantage. "We need to move now," Taman said. "Travel through the night, be in position by dawn." But Yuna shook her head. "Everyone will be thinking that. Every team is going to race for that hill tonight. They'll arrive tired with depleted power cells and fight each other for position. Meanwhile, we rest. Let them exhaust themselves fighting over the hill?" Mira asked. "Exactly. We move at first light, fresh and ready. By then, whoever holds the hill will be tired and low on power, and I'll have had all night to study the terrain and plan our approach. It was risky. If someone secured the position and held it, defeating them would be nearly impossible. But Yuna was betting on chaos, on the predictability of modern tactical thinking. Everyone would race for the objective, and in their rush, they would destroy each other. She spent the night preparing. She crafted 20 new crossbow bolts, testing each one for balance and flight. She studied the topographical maps, noting sight lines and approach angles. She planned not one attack but 5 different ones, each adapted to whatever situation they might face. Her team rested in shifts, maintaining watch but staying quiet and hidden. They heard the sounds of other cadets moving through the night, hurrying toward the hilltop. Energy weapons discharged in the distance as early arrivals began fighting for position. "Sounds like a war up there," Hayuk whispered. "Good," Yuna replied. "Let them fight. We'll clean up what's left." Dawn broke with the deep purple color of the simulated sun. The sounds of combat from the hilltop had continued through the night. Yuna's team moved out, traveling carefully, conserving their energy and power. As they approached the hilltop, Yuna climbed a tree to scout. What she saw made her smile. The fortified position had changed hands 3 times during the night. Dead equipment littered the ground. Exhausted cadets held positions behind barriers, their movements slow and tired. And holding the center position, the aliens led by a brilliant strategist named Veltora from the Crystalline Collective. Veltora's team had 5 members, all elite, all experienced. They had secured the high ground and set up overlapping fields of fire. Their energy weapons covered every approach. It was a perfect defensive position for conventional weapons. Yuna climbed down and gathered her team. "Veltora holds the hill. 5 cadets, good positions, but they're tired and low on power. They've been fighting all night. Can we take them?" Taman asked. Yuna looked at her crossbow, then at the hill, then at her team. "Yes, but not by charging up the hill like everyone else tried. We're going to do what humans have always done when facing a fortified position and superior numbers." "What's that?" Dasum asked. "We're going to be patient, invisible, and strike where they least expect it. We're going to fight like ghosts and win like humans." She checked her bolts one more time. "Because that's what we do. We adapt, we overcome. And we never ever fight fair when fighting smart is an option." Her team grinned. They had learned to trust her tactics, her ancient approach to modern warfare. They had seen what happened when human ingenuity met alien expectations. And now, with the final objective in sight, they were ready to prove once more that sometimes the oldest weapons were the most effective ones. The hilltop fortress dominated the landscape, exactly as the simulation designers intended. Veltora's crystalline form reflected the morning light as she directed her team's defensive positions. Her 4 remaining cadets, exhausted but determined, maintained watchful positions behind the barriers. They had fought hard through the night. 3 different assaults had been repelled, costing them ammunition and power but securing their position. Now they simply had to hold for 1 hour once they activated the extraction beacon, and victory would be theirs. Veltora was confident. Her shield still had charge, her weapon still had power, and the hilltop's natural advantages made assault nearly impossible. She had studied every species combat doctrine at the Academy. She knew what to expect, but she had never studied warfare from Earth's year 1000 AD. 200 meters from the hilltop, concealed in dense brush, Yuna lay perfectly still. She had been there for an hour, watching, learning patterns, counting seconds between patrol movements. Her team waited further back, hidden and patient. The position was exactly as formidable as it looked. Energy weapons covered every approach. Sensors monitored the surrounding area for heat signatures and energy spikes. Shields could deflect direct fire. It was textbook modern defensive tactics. Yuna smiled. Textbook was predictable. She studied the power generator that fed the defensive shields. It sat behind the main fortification, protected but necessarily exposed for cooling purposes. The simulation's environmental effects required it to vent heat, creating small gaps in the shielding. Gaps designed for atmosphere, not solid objects traveling at 300 feet per second. The range was extreme, over 180 meters. At this distance, her crossbow bolt would arc significantly. She would need to account for drop, for the slight wind, for the bolt's weight and balance. It was a shot that even experienced medieval crossbow users would have considered difficult, but Yuna had patience. And she had something her ancestors never had: 3 days of practice in this exact environment with this exact weapon. She waited. 1 hour, 2. The sun climbed higher, and with it came heat shimmer that would affect her shot. She waited for the shimmer to pass, for the air to settle. Veltora's team began to relax slightly. No attacks had come since dawn. Perhaps the other cadets had given up. Yuna's breathing slowed. Her heart rate dropped. She became as still as the earth beneath her, as patient as stone. This was the ultimate lesson from ancient warfare. Sometimes the waiting was the weapon. A cloud passed over the sun. The air steadied. Guard positions shifted as one of Veltora's team members moved to rest. The power generator sat exposed, its cooling vents open. Yuna drew her crossbow in one smooth motion. The ancient wood and metal felt like an extension of her body. She aimed high, compensating for the extreme range and the bolt's arc. The target was small, distant, and partially protected. It was a shot that modern targeting computers might struggle with, but humans had been making impossible shots for thousands of years. It was written into their history, their legends, their blood. She released. The bolt flew silent and invisible to sensors. It traced a perfect arc through the air, descending toward the hilltop. Veltora never saw it coming. Her sensors never detected it. The defensive systems never registered a threat. The bolt struck the power generator's cooling intake with a metallic crack that echoed across the hilltop. For a moment, nothing happened. Then sparks erupted from the unit. The defensive shields flickered, wavered, and collapsed. Emergency systems tried to compensate, but the damage was precise. The generator's main coolant line had been penetrated. It would take 15 seconds to switch to backup power, 15 seconds of vulnerability. Now, Yuna whispered into her communicator. Taemin, Mira, Hyuk, and Dasam erupted from concealment, charging up the hill with the last of their energy weapon power. They had conserved everything for this moment. Veltora's team, shocked by the shield failure and still searching for what caused it, was caught completely off guard. The firefight was brief and brutal. Taemin's plasma rifle caught one defender before they could raise shields. Mira's remaining power took out another. Hyuk and Dasam worked in tandem, their combined fire overwhelming the third defender's personal shield. Veltora herself fought brilliantly, her crystalline armor deflecting shots, her own weapon striking with precision. She eliminated Dasam and nearly got Hyuk, but she was 1 against 4, tired from a night of constant vigilance, and her team was gone. When Yuna emerged from the brush, crossbow raised, Veltora finally understood. "You," the alien said, her crystalline voice carrying tones of respect and disbelief. "The primitive weapon. It was you all along." "Not primitive," Yuna corrected gently. "Ancient. There's a difference. Primitive means simple and ineffective. Ancient means tested and proven across centuries." Veltora looked at the disabled generator, at the bolt still protruding from it, then back at Yuna. "That shot, that range, that precision, how?" "Practice, patience, and the knowledge that sometimes the best technology is no technology at all." Yuna lowered her crossbow. "You fought well. You held this position against everything modern warfare could throw at you, but you weren't prepared for warfare that predates modern definitions." The simulation registered Veltora's elimination as Taemin tagged her. The crystalline warrior nodded once, a gesture of respect, and withdrew. Yuna's team secured the hilltop and activated the extraction beacon. The 1-hour timer began. They set up defensive positions, but no further attacks came. The remaining cadets had exhausted themselves in the night's battles. Yuna's team, fresh and with a tactically superior position, was unassailable. When the timer hit 0, the simulation announced their victory. Extraction successful. Exercise complete. Final rankings will be posted within 1 hour. As they prepared to leave the simulation, Taemin looked at Yuna with newfound respect. "You planned that shot. That entire approach. You've been thinking about it since yesterday." "Since 3 days ago," Yuna corrected. "I studied this simulation the moment I knew we'd be using it. I looked for weaknesses, for approaches that wouldn't occur to people thinking with modern tactics. The generator was always going to be the key. Modern defenses assume modern attacks. A silent, unpowered projectile traveling on a ballistic arc doesn't register as a threat to sensors designed for energy weapons." Mira shook her head in wonder. "You fought an entire 3-day exercise with a weapon from the year 1200. I fought with a weapon that humans perfected over centuries of use. A weapon that's simple, reliable, and requires no power source. A weapon that's silent, invisible to sensors, and sustainable in any environment. Yuna strapped the crossbow to her back. I fought with human ingenuity and human adaptability. The crossbow was just the tool. They exited the simulation dome to find a crowd waiting. Cadets, instructors, and staff had been watching the final confrontation. Word of Yuna's tactics had spread throughout the academy. The human who fought with ancient weapons and defeated modern warriors. Professor Kelto stood near the front, his ancient eyes gleaming with satisfaction. Well done, child. You have taught many lessons today. Instructor Veklar approached, his massive form towering over Yuna. The insectoid warrior studied her for a long moment. Corporal Han, he said formally, in my 3 decades of teaching at this academy, I have never seen such an unorthodox approach succeed so completely. Your final score places you first among all cadets in this exercise. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. First place, not just among humans, but among all species, Veklar continued. You demonstrated superior tactical thinking, adaptability, and resourcefulness. You turned limitation into advantage. You used patience as a weapon. And you reminded us all that warfare is not about having the best equipment. It is about using what you have in ways your enemy cannot predict or counter. The instructor's compound eyes fixed on Yuna. I mocked human history as primitive at the start of this semester. I was wrong. Your species carries its entire military evolution with it. Every lesson learned across millennia. That is not weakness. That is strength. Yuna bowed respectfully. Thank you, instructor. But I must say that every species here has history and lessons to teach. I just happened to reach back to mine when I needed an answer. And that, Veklar said, is what makes humans dangerous allies and formidable opponents. You never discard old solutions when seeking new ones. You build upon everything you have learned. As the crowd dispersed, Junho approached Yuna. He looked uncomfortable but determined. Han, I owe you an apology. I called you a caveman. I mocked your choice. I was an arrogant fool. Yuna considered him for a moment, then extended her hand. Apology accepted. We all have lessons to learn. Mine was about trusting ancient wisdom. Maybe yours was about respecting it. Junho shook her hand gratefully and left. Taemin and Mira walked with Yuna back toward the barracks. So what are you going to use for next semester's exercise? Taemin asked. They'll definitely ban crossbows now. Yuna smiled mysteriously. I've been reading about Greek fire, and about trebuchets, and about strategies from Sun Tzu's Art of War. Humans have 10,000 years of military innovation to draw from. I figure I should learn as much as possible. You're going to make the instructors regret ever letting humans into this academy. Mira laughed. No, Yuna said seriously. But the weapons to reach it, she thought with a smile, sometimes came from the simulation dome was enormous, stretching 3 kilometers in diameter and half a kilometer high. Through the transparent sections, Yuna could see the artificial environment inside. Dense jungle, towering trees with purple leaves, swirling mists that suggested dangerous weather patterns. The simulator could recreate any environment in the known galaxy, and for this trial, the instructors had chosen one of the most hostile. 200 cadets stood in the staging area, checking their equipment one final time. Yuna saw weapons that could level buildings, armor that could deflect small explosions, sensors that could detect heat signatures from a kilometer away. She looked down at her crossbow and the simple cloth wrapping she had added to her standard armor for camouflage. Cadets, attention! Instructor Veklar's voice boomed across the area. You will be inserted into the simulation at random locations. The environment is hostile. The wildlife is aggressive. You are competing against each other for points and survival. Eliminate opponents, secure objectives, reach extraction points. Energy weapons only, as previously stated. The instructor's compound eyes swept across the assembled warriors. 3 days. Prove you deserve to be here. Yuna felt her heart pounding. Beside her, Taemin checked his plasma rifle one more time. Mira adjusted her shield generator. Other humans made final preparations, while aliens of every species did the same with their own unique equipment. The insertion began. Cadets entered the dome in waves, transported to different locations by the simulation's teleportation system. When Yuna's turn came, she stepped onto the platform with her crossbow strapped to her back and her smaller hand crossbow at her hip. The world flickered, and suddenly she was standing in dense jungle undergrowth. The heat hit her immediately. The simulated environment was incredibly realistic, down to the humidity that made breathing difficult. Strange calls echoed through the trees, animal sounds unlike anything on Earth. Above her, the canopy filtered down green-tinted light that made everything look alien and threatening. Yuna moved slowly, carefully, every sense alert. Most cadets would immediately head for high ground or objectives. They would make noise, leave energy signatures, announce their presence to the world. She had a different plan. She found a dense thicket and settled into it, becoming as still as the vegetation around her. Then she waited. Patience was a weapon too, one that most modern warriors had forgotten. Her ancestors who hunted with bows and crossbows knew this truth. Sometimes the best tactic was simply to watch and learn. An hour passed. The sounds of combat reached her from different directions. Energy weapons whined and crackled. Explosions boomed in the distance. Cadets were fighting, eliminating each other, racing for objectives. And with every burst of energy fire, they announced their locations to everyone with sensors. Yuna's crossbow produced no such signature. She was invisible to their technology. Movement caught her eye. 3 cadets, 2 aliens, and 1 human, moving through the jungle below her position. They were being pursued by something running hard, energy weapons drawn. Behind them, Yuna heard the sounds of what the briefing had described as the simulation's apex predator, a creature designed to test the cadets' combat abilities. The 3 cadets took defensive positions behind fallen logs, preparing to face their pursuer. They never noticed Yuna above them. She watched, learning their tactics, noting their equipment. Knowledge was ammunition too. On the second day, Yuna encountered her first real opportunity. She heard sounds of combat ahead and moved toward it silently. Through the undergrowth, she saw a human cadet, Hyuk-nam, pinned down behind a boulder. 2 alien cadets had superior positions on higher ground, their plasma rifles keeping Hyuk trapped. Every time he tried to move, they fired, draining his shields. It was only a matter of time before they eliminated him. Yuna studied the situation. The aliens were confident, exposed. They weren't worried about threats from anywhere except their target. Why would they be? Everyone used energy weapons that gave clear signatures when fired. She climbed silently into a tree, finding a position with clear sight lines. The larger alien was checking his rifle's power cell. The smaller one was focused entirely on Hyuk's position. Neither looked up. Yuna raised her crossbow, drew, aimed. The weapon was perfectly silent as she released the string. The bolt flew true, striking the larger alien's plasma rifle dead center. The weapon sparked and died, hit in exactly the right spot to disable it without hurting the cadet. Both aliens spun around, searching for the threat. They saw nothing, heard nothing. No energy signature, no muzzle flash, no sound. Before they could identify where the attack came from, Yuna had reloaded. The second bolt hit the smaller alien's shield generator, disabling it. Hyuk, understanding he had unexpected help, fired immediately. His energy blast caught the now unshielded alien and registered the elimination. The other alien, weaponless, raised his hands in surrender and was tagged out as well. Hyuk stared into the jungle, breathing hard. "Who's there? Show yourself." Yuna dropped from the tree, her crossbow still ready. Hyuk's eyes widened when he saw her. "Han? Was that you? Did you just shoot them with a crossbow?" "Are you injured?" Yuna asked, ignoring his question. "No, I'm fine, thanks to you. But seriously, that was a crossbow. I saw it when you dropped down. How is that even allowed?" "It doesn't use chemical propellants or electromagnetic acceleration," Yuna explained. "Mechanical tension only. Completely within the rules." Hyuk started laughing. "That's brilliant." They never saw it coming. No warning at all. He looked at her with new respect. "You're fighting smart. Really smart. Stay alive, Hyuk, and maybe don't tell everyone what weapon I'm using. I'd like to keep the advantage as long as possible." But news was already spreading. By the time day 2 ended, whispers moved through the remaining cadets. Someone was eliminating opponents with a silent weapon. No energy signature, no sound. People were going down without warning, their equipment disabled by something invisible. In the instructor observation room, Veklar watched the feeds with growing interest. The human with the primitive weapon. "Show me her statistics." The display lit up with Yuna's performance. 7 eliminations. 0 damage taken. Highest stealth rating in the entire simulation. And she had accomplished it all with a weapon that most species would consider a museum piece. Interesting, Veklar murmured. Very interesting indeed. Day 3 began with Yuna meeting up with Taemin and Mira. They had both survived the first 2 days, though with more difficulty than Yuna. Taemin's armor showed scorch marks from near misses, and Mira's shield generator was running low on charge. We need to work together, Taemin said. There are still 30 cadets left, and some of them are forming groups. Strength in numbers, Yuna nodded. Agreed, but we do it my way. I'll provide cover and disruption. You two handle direct confrontation when necessary. Stay quiet, move carefully, and let me take the first shot whenever possible. They moved through the jungle as a unit, and Yuna began teaching them what she had learned: how to move without sound, how to use natural cover, how to be patient and wait for the right moment. Ancient human hunting tactics applied to futuristic combat. Their first test came at a river crossing. 6 alien cadets held the bridge, a strategic choke point that anyone traveling south had to cross. They had energy weapons and good defensive positions. A direct assault would be suicide. We can't cross there, Mira said. They'll cut us down before we get halfway. Yuna studied the situation. We don't need to cross the bridge. We just need them to think we're going to try. She explained her plan. Taemin and Mira would create a distraction upstream, making noise and firing a few energy blasts to draw attention. Meanwhile, Yuna would use the river itself for cover, underwater, breathing through a hollow reed she had cut from the jungle plants. It worked perfectly. While the defenders focused on the distraction, Yuna moved beneath the water's surface. She emerged directly beneath the bridge, silent and invisible. One by one, she disabled their weapons with her hand crossbow. Bolt after bolt, each shot perfectly placed. By the time the defenders realized the threat was underneath them, it was too late. Taemin and Mira rushed the bridge while the aliens scrambled to respond with disabled weapons and damaged equipment. 3 quick eliminations and the remaining defenders retreated. That was amazing, Mira said, helping Yuna out of the water. They never even saw you coming. Old trick, Yuna replied. Humans have been using water for stealth approaches for thousands of years. Alexander the Great's armies did it. Viking raiders did it. It's basic tactics that everyone forgot, because modern sensors can usually detect underwater movement, but sensors track energy and heat. Wood and flesh don't register the same way. More cadets witnessed Yuna's tactics as day 3 continued. The word spread faster. The human with the silent weapon. The one who fought like a ghost. Some tried to counter her, setting up detection grids and overlapping fields of fire. But Yuna adapted every time, finding new angles, new approaches, new ways to use ancient tactics in a futuristic setting. Junho Kim heard the stories and grew increasingly angry. The cadet he had mocked was becoming a legend in the simulation. His coalition of followers was shrinking as cadets were eliminated, while Yuna's small group R. The Military History Museum occupied 3 entire levels of station. Epsilon 7. Yuna walked through galleries filled with weapons from civilizations that had risen and fallen before humanity even discovered fire. Display cases held energy swords from the Crystal Wars, plasma cannons from the Dominion expansion, and strange devices whose purposes she could only guess at. An elderly alien approached her, moving with the careful grace of someone very old. The being was amphibious in nature, with moist green skin and large, intelligent eyes. It wore robes marked with academic symbols. Welcome, young warrior, the alien said in perfect English. I am Professor Keltos, curator of this collection. Are you seeking inspiration for your upcoming trial? Yuna nodded respectfully. Yes, Professor. I'm looking for earth weapons specifically, from our ancient history. Keltos tilted his head, a gesture that might have been curiosity, an unusual request. Most cadets wish to study the weapons of species known for conquest, the chitin battleclaws, the Vorthan plasma arrays. Earth weapons are modest in our collection. Your species joined the galactic community so recently. That's exactly what I'm hoping for, Yuna said. The professor led her deeper into the museum, past displays of increasingly ancient technology. They descended to a lower level where the lighting was dimmer, the displays less maintained. This was where the truly old things lived, weapons from eras before modern warfare. Here, Keltos said, gesturing to a small section near the back. Human military history. We have examples from your various conflicts. Quite a violent species, you humans. So many wars in such a short time. Yuna looked at the displays with growing excitement. Ancient rifles from Earth's world wars, swords from feudal Japan, spears from African tribes, bows from various cultures. And there, in a corner case, exactly what she had hoped to find. 2 crossbows. One large, a medieval European design with a steel bow and wooden stock. The other smaller, a handheld version meant for close combat. Both were reconstructed examples, built by historians to match weapons from around 1000 to 1200 AD. They were beautiful in their simplicity, wood, metal, and tension. Pure physics with no electronics, no power source, no complex systems to fail. These interest you? Keltos asked, sounding surprised. They are primitive tension-based launchers. The projectile is propelled by releasing stored mechanical energy in the bow limbs. Effective for their time, I suppose, but crude by any modern standard. Yuna studied the weapons carefully. Professor, I need to ask you something important. These crossbows, they fire bolts using mechanical tension, correct? No chemical propellants, no electromagnetic acceleration, no power source? Correct. Merely bent wood and metal releasing stored energy. Why do you ask? The qualification trial prohibits projectile weapons, Yuna said slowly. But the definition specifically targets weapons that use chemical reactions or electromagnetic propulsion. A crossbow doesn't use either. It's mechanical tension. Technically, would these be allowed? Professor Keltos was quiet for a long moment. Then he made a sound that might have been laughter. You wish to use these in the trial? Child, these are museum pieces. They would be no match for energy weapons and modern combat gear. Maybe, Yuna said. Or maybe everyone assumes that because they've never faced them. Can I check these out, Professor? For training purposes? The curator studied her with those large, ancient eyes. Finally, he nodded. Your logic is sound. These weapons do not violate the technical restrictions, and I admit, I am curious to see if ancient human ingenuity can match modern galactic warfare. Very well. I will process the paperwork, but you must maintain them properly and return them undamaged. Thank you, Professor. I promise I'll take good care of them. As Yuna carried the crossbows back to the barracks, carefully cradled in protective cases, she felt more confident than she had since arriving at the academy. She had found her edge, her advantage. Now she just needed to make it work. Back in her quarters, she laid out the weapons and began examining them closely. The larger crossbow was solid, well-balanced, with a draw weight of about 150 pounds, heavy enough to punch through light armor. The smaller hand crossbow was lighter, maybe 80 pounds of draw weight, meant for closer ranges but much faster to reload. Taman entered the room and stopped dead. Yuna, what is that? A crossbow. Actually, 2 crossbows. From Earth's medieval period. I can see that. Why do you have ancient weapons from a museum? Yuna smiled. Because the trial prohibits projectile weapons that use chemical propellants or electromagnetic acceleration. These use neither. They're mechanical tension weapons. Completely legal under the rules. Taman sat down heavily on his bunk. You're going to fight aliens with plasma rifles using a weapon from the year 1000? 1200, actually. Well, a reconstruction of one. And yes, they're going to destroy you. Maybe, Yuna admitted. Or maybe I'll have advantages they can't counter. These produce no energy signature. Sensors can't track them. They're completely silent. No muzzle flash, no power source to run dry. And in the simulation environment where energy weapons have reduced range due to atmospheric density, these might actually work better. Another human entered the room, a young woman with short hair and oil stains on her uniform. Mira Choi, a technical specialist who had quickly become Yuna's friend. Did I just hear you say you're bringing a medieval crossbow to the qualification trial? Mira asked. You did. Mira looked at the weapons, then at Yuna, then back at the weapons. That's either brilliant or completely insane. I haven't decided which yet. Want to help me make sure it's brilliant? Yuna asked. Over the next week, the 3 of them worked together. Mira used the Academy's fabrication facilities to create modern bolts for the crossbows. They kept the medieval firing mechanism, but made the ammunition from advanced materials, lightweight, strong, and perfectly balanced. Yuna practiced every day in the private training rooms, relearning skills that humans hadn't needed for centuries. Draw, aim, fire, reload, over and over until her muscles remembered the motions. The crossbow was different from any weapon she had trained with. It required patience, precision, and a different kind of thinking. Every shot had to count because reloading took time. Taemin watched her practice one evening. You're actually getting good with that thing. I'm getting adequate, Yuna corrected. My ancestors who used these in actual combat were far better. But I'm learning. What's your plan for the trial? He asked. Yuna lowered the crossbow. Everyone will be relying on energy weapons. They'll be watching for energy signatures, listening for the sound of plasma fire. They'll expect direct confrontation, because that's how modern warfare works. But I'm going to fight like my ancestors did, silent, patient, strike from concealment and move before they know where I am. Guerrilla tactics, Mira said, understanding. Hit and run. Ambush warfare, exactly. The aliens have better technology. But technology can be predicted. It has patterns, signatures, limitations. This crossbow doesn't. It's too old, too simple. They won't know how to defend against it because no one has used weapons like this in combat for centuries. Word of Yuna's unorthodox choice spread through the human cadets. Some were intrigued. Others thought she had lost her mind. One cadet in particular, a man named Junho Kim, made his opinion very clear in the mess hall one evening. Did you hear about Han? Hunyo said loudly, making sure everyone could hear. She's bringing a caveman weapon to the trial. What's next, a sharp stick? Maybe she'll throw rocks at people? His friends laughed. Hunyo continued. The rest of us are training with real weapons, modern gear. But Han wants to play at being a primitive. It's embarrassing for all humans here. Yuna kept eating, ignoring him. She had learned long ago that the best response to people like Junho was success. But Taemin stood up. At least she's thinking creatively. What's your plan, Junho? Use the same equipment as everyone else and hope you're slightly better than aliens who have been warriors for their entire lives? Junho's smile faded. I'm using the best equipment available. That's called being smart. No, Yuna said quietly, finally looking at him. That's called being predictable. But I guess we'll see in a few days who made the right choice. The night before the trial, Yuna couldn't sleep. She sat in the observation deck looking out at the stars, the crossbow across her lap. Professor Keltos found her there. Nervous, child? The old curator asked. Terrified, Yuna admitted. What if I'm wrong? What if this is just stupid pride? Keltos sat beside her. Do you know why I approved your request? Because in all my years studying warfare across the galaxy, I have learned one truth. The warrior who wins is not always the one with the best weapon. It is the one who understands that the weapon is merely a tool. Victory comes from the mind, the spirit, the will to adapt and overcome. He gestured to the crossbow. Your ancestors used these to defend their homes, to hunt for survival, to fight in wars that shaped your world. That history lives in you. Trust it, Yuna nodded slowly. Thank you, Professor. As the old alien left, Yuna stood and drew the crossbow, aiming at an imaginary target. Tomorrow she would enter that simulation dome. Tomorrow she would face warriors from across the galaxy. And tomorrow she would prove that sometimes the oldest solutions were the best ones. The future was written in the stars above her.